Imagine believing a nightmare was finally over, only for it to resurface years later, far more sinister than you ever remembered. We thought the terrifying night our beach house was invaded and our family boat stolen was a closed chapter, a chilling memory from our teenage years. But then, an unbelievable update shattered that illusion. The stolen boat reappeared, anchored in a restricted area, and with it, the unsettling presence of a mysterious figure carrying a shovel. This isn't just an update. It's a terrifying reopening of a case we thought was cold, proving that some horrors refuse to stay buried. My fear of beaches isn't a childhood phobia. It's a direct scar from that fateful summer when I was 16. Weekends at my friend Charles's beach house in LBI were pure bliss then. That particular summer, Charles, Riley and I, freshly unsupervised, planned a few days of teenage freedom. The drive down was filled with the easy laughter of youth, mocking Riley's uncoordinated driving. Charles's house, important to this tale, had multiple access points, a front door, a garage connecting front to back, a rear sliding door, and an upstairs deck with a spiral staircase to the ground. It sat by a lagoon, facing a narrow channel of water. Our priorities were simple: chasing girls. We quickly found a group of 3, Rosie, Alexa and Sophie, eager to join us. With ample weed and pilfered alcohol, the night promised perfection. The 6 of us ended up in Charles's small backyard pool, immersed in a haze of gentle bay breeze, warm water, steam, and joint smoke. It was pure, unadulterated bliss. Then Charles abruptly cut the music, staring over my shoulder into the lagoon's inky darkness. Confused, I followed his gaze, discerning only the faint outlines of houses across the water. One of the girls broke the silence, asking why the music stopped. Charles whispered chillingly that he saw someone on the opposite dock. I chuckled, dismissing it as a prank. Who cares, bro? People live here. Charles shook his head, his voice tight. I know that family. My parents said they're in Florida for the week. My laughter died as the girls exchanged nervous glances. They wanted to go inside. As we dried off, Riley let out a curse, his eyes wide, fixed on the lagoon. We all turned, even in the dim light. Undeniable movement rippled from the distant dock. We froze, trying to pierce the gloom. A passing car's headlights briefly illuminated the scene, and the sight was horrifying. 4 tall, indistinct silhouettes stood at the dock's edge, unmistakably facing us. Go inside now, Charles croaked, shoving us towards the sliding door. As we scrambled inside, 4 distinct splashes echoed from behind us. They were swimming across the lagoon. Panic seized us. The girls shrieked, Riley slammed and locked the sliding door, and Charles sprinted to secure the front. We huddled in a hidden room, listening, terrified. Minutes crawled by. Silence. Then Riley cursed again. He'd forgotten to lock the deck's sliding door. Charles's face went white. We heard it then, soft, quiet footsteps above us. That was it. No weapons, Intoxicated, escape was our only option. We bolted for the front door, piled into Riley's car, and he tore out of the driveway, obliterating Charles's mailbox in his frantic escape. Once far enough, we called the police. The ordeal was a nightmare. When we returned with authorities, the news was crushing. All valuables from the top floor were gone. But worse, Charles's family's medium-sized Boston Whaler was also stolen, likely their getaway. The police concluded they found a spare key in a small hatch under the steering wheel. How they knew its hiding spot remains a haunting question. The perpetrators were never caught, Charles, Riley, and I suspect it was someone who knew his family, knew the house would be vacant, and knew about the key. I haven't gone a day since without locking every door and window. Years passed. Charles and I drifted apart after college. Then, by chance, we reconnected at a high school reunion. It was surreal, seeing faces aged but familiar. As the night wound down, Charles pulled Riley and me aside, suggesting a drink at a local dive bar. Riley couldn't make it, but I was game. Over beers, reminiscing about old times, the memory of that terrifying night at his beach house resurfaced. Charles slapped the table, a sudden memory igniting his eyes. What he told me next was wild, something I meticulously recorded in my notes app to ensure accuracy. He began by explaining that his younger brother, Kieran, now 19, and his friends were far wilder than we ever were. About a year prior, Kieran and two friends, without permission, took his family's new boat, the replacement for the stolen one, out for a late afternoon trip, loaded with underage beer. Incredibly stupid, dangerous, and illegal. But it escalated. Feeling adventurous, they anchored near Carl Island, part of a wildlife refuge forbidden at night. Their plan: anchor, drink, then swim ashore to After swimming to the beach, they found a spot. As dusk settled, one of Kieran's friends spotted another boat, anchored further down, unfamiliar. Kieran squinted, and a creeping certainty grew within him. From what Charles described, Kieran was convinced it was their family's old Boston Whaler, the stolen one. Charles found it hard to believe, given the distance and fading light, but Kieran was resolute. He convinced his friends to swim out for a closer look. By the time they reached it, Kieran was 100% positive. It was their boat. Frustration then set in. They had no phones to take pictures. Swimming back to their own boat for them would mean returning when it was too dark to see anything clearly. One friend suggested calling the police, but Kieran and the other were terrified. They were underage, drinking, operating a boat without permission, and in a restricted area. Calling the cops was the last thing Kieran wanted. Instead, they decided to swim back to their boat, drive it over for pictures, then figure it out at home. As they walked down the beach to cut out some of the swim, one of Kieran's friends turned around. A man was walking towards them. Kieran swore the man picked up speed as they turned, like he was pursuing, and scariest of all, the man appeared to be holding a shovel. The boys ran. The man ran after them. They sprinted back to their boat, Kieran glancing back once more to see the man running in the opposite direction, presumably back to his own boat, which was significantly closer. They reached their boat and started to leave, but operating a boat after sunset in New Jersey meant strict speed limits and specific light regulations. They couldn't just gun it. The ride back was the most tense experience Kieran had ever known, knowing someone could be following in the darkness, unable to speed away. Kieran wasn't sure if they were followed, but swore he heard the faint sounds of a boat behind them. Once home, his friends again urged him to call the police, but Kieran refused, more scared of his parents' wrath than whatever they'd seen. Guilt, however, gnawed at him. The next day, he confessed everything to his parents, omitting the drinking, a detail Charles only later learned from Kieran. Charles said his parents were angrier at Kieran than he'd ever seen them with him, which was saying something. His father banned Kieran from the beach house for the rest of the summer. His parents reported Kieran's sighting, but nothing ever came of it. Just like our original incident, the police were useless. I interrupted Charles with questions. How could the boat be in use around LBI all these years without recognition? Why anchor it so close to shore if it was stolen? Did police ever search the island for the man with the shovel? Charles shrugged, admitting he had no solid answers. His best guess for the boat was that the thieves stripped or repainted it to avoid suspicion. As for the anchoring spot, perhaps they felt safe in a restricted area. The man with the shovel, Charles just offered maybe he was burying something or digging something up. Either way, it spooked Kieran and his friends enough to confess, something Kieran would normally never do. Charles and I talked a while longer, then parted ways. I still have no idea what to make of any of it. Hearing the update didn't bring closure. If anything, it ripped open a whole new can of worms that most likely will remain forever unresolved.